Mental illness can be quite a trip. I bicycled across Canada when I was 20, and a couple of years later, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia at the age of 22. And that year, in 1994, I was going for a walk. I remember the day specifically. I was I was in very bad shape, but I was able to be out of the hospital, out of the psych ward, and I was living with my parents at the time. And we have a regular route where we go walking. I've been doing it all my life. And this particular day, I said, you know what? I want to go on a section by myself. So I said, I'll meet you back at home, and I wanted to do that by myself. Just 2 years later, I'd bicycled across the country with a group of other people, but that was a big endeavor. And just 2 years later, I could barely walk just in my neighborhood by myself. I was that scared to be alone. It was terrifying. But I wanted to improve throughout my recovery, so I was always taking steps to push myself in a comfort zone. It was still scary, very scary, but it was a scary that I could handle. And there were things that I just could not do. I had an engineering degree, but I wasn't going to use that. I couldn't do all that stuff when I was sick. I got the degree before I got too sick. But I remember I said, you know what, I want to go on this section by myself, and I'll meet you back at home. And I did. It was so scary to take that first step, just walking off by myself, leaving my parents behind at the age of 22. It was embarrassing and humiliating to be in that state, to be so sick and disabled. But what else could I do? Sometimes there's nothing you can do, you just have to deal with it. So I did it. I walked the whole way by myself, made it back home, and I was so proud of myself. Even though I couldn't feel the pleasure of being proud, of being happy, because I was always depressed and anxious, there's still something that registers in you. Those small things that you do that seem so inconsequential and, like I said, embarrassing and humiliating, those steps are huge. I encourage you to take them, to be what the Canadian Olympic rower Marnie McBean says, to do things that make you comfortably uncomfortable. Not uncomfortably uncomfortable, but go into your uncomfort range, but be in the comfortable range of your uncomfort. And that's what I tried to do throughout my whole recovery, taking little steps, leaps of faith like that seemed very scary at the time, very scary, but do them anyway. Because when you break outside your comfort zone and take these leaps of faith, they build and they build. A few years later, I was able to get my first apartment by myself, being sick. I'd already lived independently before I got my disease in university, but at the age of 20, it was 97, so it had been 25, I believe, and I got my first apartment by myself. I spent a year in a psych ward, in and out of the psych ward, and then 3 years in a group home. And then in 97, I got my first apartment by myself. And it was a leap of faith. I was scared again I was scared, but I did it. And I've been living independently ever since, at the age of 49 now, in 2021. We're in the future, way into the future.